It's kind of like in the U.S., you know, they've got a debased currency in Mexico because it's 3-1, 4-1. But instead now, with the euro and all the other major currencies, they're devaluing them basically simultaneously.
Yes, that's right to the point. Matter of fact, I mentioned Russia earlier, like the NBC of Russia, Studio One came here about 2 weeks ago with a camera person and a reporter. They're doing a big story on this. And as I said, it's so ironic that God is very well known in Russia and not known at all in the United States.
Well, Russia, if you actually, Anthony Sutton and others got the U.S. government documents on this, and, of course, he worked for the Senate, that the large central banks here and in England funded the communists, and when the Russians in the late 90s kicked out the oligarchs, it turned out they were all fronts for Western brokerage houses and banks, and Russia's got its own problems, but Russia is now in many cases more free market than we are. They pay people to have children, though. Our government wants a one-child policy. They've arrested the oligarchs. They're talking about world government. They're talking about the New World Order. And they're covering all these subjects because for the first time in close to 100 years, there appears to be a real fissure between Russia and the Anglo-American banking establishment.
Well, I know that the Bank of England has been very responsible for the gold price suppression scheme, and right now it's a big deal, the gold subject, because Gordon Brown's running for re-election, and he sold half their gold right at the bottom of the market. And I've had this all laid out with his connection with Goldman Sachs. The bullion banks were in trouble back then. They needed supply, so he sold England's gold at the bottom. It's cost him billions and billions of dollars, and we're trying to make some hay with this one before the election over there in England.
Absolutely. That's the type of thing they do. And, of course, you go back to 1933 when they made physical holding of gold illegal. And then they jacked up the price a few years ago. They doubled it after all our gold had basically been shipped to Europe. So they run these scams. Other points that are important for people to be made aware of, looking into your crystal ball and talking to people in the markets, I don't want you to make a prediction, but if you had to dead reckon, how do you see this unfolding?
Probably like every other scandal, whether it's Revco, a brokerage house, or Enron, or Madoff, it blows up. And then all of a sudden everyone's running around and say, how could this have happened? And everybody, people delve into the facts of the story, and that's how it's exposed, unfortunately. And it's likely to be the way it's going to happen here, where silver and gold just absolutely explodes. There's some defaults in the marketplace. People can't deliver on their promises to deliver, the physical bullion to people, and it'll be a huge, huge commotion. That's how I think it's going to play out.
What's the time frame? Next 2-3 years?
Yeah, it's so tough about the time frame. It could happen in 2 weeks or 2 years. It's just one of these things. Had we not had the financial scandal, Madoff would still be trucking right along.
And a lot of this is up to the listeners of this show. We have several million listeners. If they get the censored video of you and others out to people, if they get the censored documents out, if they put pressure. I mean, that's why Obama politically now is going after, with the SEC, Goldman, with, a $5 million fine, slap on the wrist, an investigation, maybe some underling will go on probation. They're having to at least do that because it's political suicide if they don't. We need to force this out all the way into the open, because even though this is a whitewash investigation, it's now opening up more lawsuits. It's now legitimizing those of us that have exposed the corruption of the main pilots of this banking cartel, Goldman Sachs.
That's right. The irony is that right now the two honchos are HSBC and JPMorgan Chase. Well, Goldman Sachs was the ringleader in this thing for, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. They've disappeared of late, maybe because they're concentrating on the stock market. I don't know, but everywhere we looked for a period of 8 or 9 years, Goldman Sachs was everywhere on this particular issue.
Yeah, they're now top of the heap. Their underlings are now carrying on this operation. But again, I think the most important point you made is 90+%. I think you gave the number of 93%, and I'm looking at news today. Gold weaker as Greece debt issue back on front burner.
Well, that's the same reason. The commentary is ludicrous in this industry. Last week, gold's up because of the Greek problems. Then it's down. It's these people hit the market, and then the reporters just talk about anything. You could have gold could be up $50 on the Greek debt problems.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Just as a layman, here, but I've done a lot of research. Having major currency crises that even in the words of Merkel and the words of Soros could bring down the euro. This could bring down the euro, and by every barometer, that should shoot gold straight up. And there's all these headlines about gold down $5 or $4.50. Let me give you the exact number, folks. Gold's down $4.70 right now. And the media is saying because currencies are in trouble? Currencies are
ludicrous. This is what happens. Over the years, and we've seen this, any followers, I know there's a bunch of people listening on your show, the worse the situation or the better it is for gold or the more reasons for people to go to gold, that's when the gold cartel attacks the price because they want to diffuse the barometer, tone down the thermometer. They do it all the time. It's just, again, it's ridiculous for people to say gold's going down because of the crisis. It's nuts.
No, it is nuts. But again, they know people are looking at a month-to-month or week-to-week graph. You look at the year graph, you look at the 2-year, the 3-year, the 4-year, the 5. Gold's going straight up. And if it continues like this, another 10 years, we'll be looking at $2,000 an ounce.
We're looking at $2,000 probably in another year, not 10 years.
Well, absolutely. But, I mean, even in a suppressed market, even if they continue this scam, in 10 years it would double again. That's a great investment.
Yeah, of course. What's happening is they're running out of available central bank gold. People think that the gold industry says there's 30,000 tons of gold in central bank vaults. Well, according to the work of our guys, which are pretty top shelf guys, there's less than 15,000 tons. And European central banks were selling 400 to 500 tons of gold a year. The past 3 or 4 months, they haven't sold an ounce. It's drying up. Think of an army that's running out of ammunition. The bad guys are running out of ammunition. All they can do is have a rear guard action. But it's painful on these dips. We should be at 2,300, not where we are here.
Well, I just did the math, and I was wrong. I was just throwing, a basic number out there. If gold is up almost fourfold in the last 10 years, then it's exponential. If it was doubling, basically every 3-4 years, then you're right. In another year and a half or so, it should be well above 2,000. But I was saying even in their rigged market, we could be looking at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. The sky's the limit. From all of your research, and I know you guys are conservative, where should gold be for real inflation right now?
$2,300 an ounce. That's what it would be, and that's according to many other people. Had it kept pace with inflation, and that's just the published inflation numbers, much less the real inflation numbers. So we have a long way to go. Again, if I can stress this, the bad guys are running out of ammunition to keep the price down, and you're going to see some kind of major league fireworks sometime this year. But
they do have a lot of money behind the scenes.
But they're running out of physical gold. That's their problem.
Well,
they've gone through about 1,000 tons per year for 15 years. And there's a supply-demand deficit of, say, that amount. And they've kept the price under control on the way up by using this physical gold, but they're hitting the wall. One of our guys, our consultants, predicted this. We had a conference in Durban, South Africa, May 10th, 2001. He said in 7 to 10 years, they're going to run out of enough gold to keep the price from really taking off. Well, we're right in the middle of that zone right now.
Wow, so we could see this in the next month or the next 2 years, but time is on our side.
Yeah, it's coming, and it's inevitable. I mean, it's just a matter of how much ammunition they can come up with at a given time to meet the growing physical market demand. So it's very exciting, very frustrating on a day-to-day basis. But, again, we've been up 10 years in a row, and you said earlier, the acceleration phase is still ahead of us.
All right. In closing, we have the head of GATA, Bill Murphy, chairman, director of GATA, on with us. Going back to the whistleblower, you say he and his family were hit by a car. I remember seeing that in the news, that the person ran, and that we haven't heard what's happened since then. How is Andrew McGuire doing? Have you had a chance to talk to him? Is he getting?
He's fine. He talks to my colleague Adrian Douglas quite a bit. There's a bunch of interviews. People are talking to him over there, and I think he's going further with the legal counsel, the CFTC. So there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's a process. These investigations do take a long time, unfortunately.
Well, let me do this with you. Let me put you on hold and have my producer talk to you. I would like to get you or your other colleague on with Mr. McGuire for a full hour sometime next week. I think people need to hear directly from the whistleblower who saw these JPMorgan Chase people rubbing their hands together in glee. Do you think that's doable, Mr. Murphy?
That'd be fine. Fine with me. I have to go to Miami to meet somebody at the Financial Times next week, but I'd love to do it. I just have to see what Andrew's schedule is.
Okay, and you also talked about your other colleague that's working with him.
Douglas. Well, he's an oil consultant, but if he's free, I'm sure he'd love to do it.
Sure. I mean, just the more the merrier, getting your different perspectives here. I want to thank you for your tireless 11-year effort. It's certainly bearing fruit. I mean, there you were, 260-something bucks an ounce back when you started, and it's 1,145 today. And so we're having a great victory. I'm going to put you on hold, sir, and try to iron some of those basics out right now about getting the whistleblower on the show at your convenience, Andrew McGuire. Perhaps we can get his contact info from you. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Anytime, Alex.